Hey Void, how are you doing? Alright, so this is one of my more contemporary watches. I mean, watched more recently, it's not contemporary. Anyway, hi, Baby Rizzo here, and continuing to work my way through my own collection. So, I've been trying to work a little towards the beginning of it, which is mostly my numericals, trying to knock them out of the way. You'll see some of them interspersed into my reviews here, but I am terrible at focus, so sometimes I'll just grab a random movie and watch it. So, eventually, I'll get through everything. But, well, The 13th Warrior. Now, this movie, you may notice, doesn't fit my usual shtick of random horror, sci fi, fantasy, and various animes. Well, I do watch anything comfortably, and there are a lot of random movies in my collection. There's been a lot of times where I'll just review anything. Well, this is actually a movie I never really intended to own. There's a lot of movies in my collection I never really intended to own, but I just can't say no to a movie. So, generally, if there's something in existence, I want to give it a shot. So, when I worked at the video store, I had worked my way up from just the basic CSR role all the way up to manager. And when I worked my way up to manager, they transferred me to a different store, and I had to pretty much clean up the store. Because the last manager did not. So, as I was going through, I found this movie, this exact copy, in the back room, shrink wrapped, never opened. It looked like there was a special order from years ago that was never picked up. So I was able to just then talked it over with the powers above me, just discounted it and sold it to myself. So I ended up with a very cheap copy of The 13th Warrior. Now, I had no idea anything about this movie. So, however, I was able to find out, based on the large blurb here, the writer of Jurassic Park and the director of Die Hard. Okay. Well, so it's Michael Crichton behind this one, with his book, The Eaters of the Dead, turned into The 13th Warrior. Now, as I watched this movie, it occurred to me about halfway through that, wait, this is Beowulf. Well, discount fan fiction version of Beowulf, but Beowulf nonetheless. Essentially, they kind of took the magical fantasy elements out of Beowulf and kind of see the what if this actually happened, how could this be possibly done? So, to keep some of those elements in, like as the superstitions, but still have it work. So it's interesting there. So the monsters are actually men dressed like monsters, but the superstitious people can't tell the difference at first because of how mysterious their attacks are. Okay. The fire serpent, the dragon, is literally just a wave of torches that looks like a snaking dragon. Okay. I can be on board with that. That's kind of neat. But this movie otherwise has some baffling choices. So, it stars Antonio Banderas. Love Antonio Banderas. But, as an Arabian man, something's not matching there. But, that said, he does play the role very well. And, so it's otherwise a pretty standard action film. It's trying to be an epic, but it never quite gets there. There's some cool elements, but a lot of things just seem to not follow through, is I guess the best way of putting it on this one. So, this one, Ahmed Ibn, he gives like 4 or 5 names, and my IMDb just cuts it off at that, so, and the people around him just call him Ibn. So, is banished from the realm because he was macking on the Sultan's girl. You don't mac on the Sultan's girl, you get banished. Well, he wasn't banished as in so much of, here, you're now that you're promoted to the rank of diplomat, now go away. Okay, so off he goes to spread the word of Allah and essentially be a diplomat / missionary. Anyway, he encounters some people that are essentially Vikings. And one of them is essentially Beowulf. Bullywif. So they pretty much changed or altered a lot of the names from the legend, except for like King Hrothgar. But most of them are still present. And he essentially, because then someone comes asking for aid, an emissary of King Hrothgar comes asking for aid, that his people are under attack by monsters, and who will help, and essentially there's a casting of bones that says 13 warriors are needed. And so then Bullywuff is the first one to go up, and then one by one a bunch of people go until the Soothsayer holds up a discolored bone and indicates the other one cannot be a northern man. And so it's Antonio Banderas. And away they go. Now, and it's pretty much there, goes through pretty much Beowulf. There's the attack on the festive hall, except for it's by a swarm of people rather than just one Grendel. And I think the way they call the people, the name sounds something like Grendel. I just saw this like last week, and it's already fading for some of the details. But they're pretty much told that they have to, they'll never defeat them unless they defeat the leader, which is, I guess, the Grendel in this case, and defeat their mother. They're very matriarchal society, so like one mother is like the leader of the tribe. So that's what they got to do. And so then it pretty much becomes a sneaking into them, sneak into the lair, kill the queen, and then go back to defend against the final onslaught. So, okay, so some criticisms. I will say the language thing comes up a lot when people talk about this movie. I act like people talk about this movie. Not a lot of people talk about the 13th Warrior anymore. But one thing was the language. So, Ahmed doesn't speak the Nordic language. So he's just kind of going along anyway. He's got a translator there, and like one person speaks Greek, which his coworker or his assistant spoke, but now he's even there without that, so pretty much he's going along with no translation. But essentially by listening, he learns the language. Now, this does make it look like he just learns the language like that, just by going a lot. But they actually do it a little organically, as one thing that I thought was cool about that, as ridiculous as it is that they'll like show like one night and he's just kind of listening in, and suddenly like you'll hear a word that actually is like they're speaking then like Old Norse or a variation thereof. So they'll just be mostly speaking a language we can't understand, and all of a sudden like one word will come through, and it's like he shows him picking up word by word kind of, which which was a cool way of visualizing it, but it does make it still see like they're trying to imply more time is passing just because of how long the journey is, but it doesn't. It makes it seem like he just magically learns the language. My other criticism is the characters' names. We almost never learn them. The thing is, with the 13 warriors, you'd expect 13 good core characters. But you got Ahmed, you got Bullywuff, and Hrothgar, which is pretty much his best friend in there. Now the problem is, while some names are said, they're almost never said. And so you don't get barely any characterization on any of the others. So much to the point that the critics actually has their name and then like a descriptor so you could tell which one it was. Like even Hrothgar just gets joyous and Bullywuff is leader. It's like, okay. Then like skilled. Is it Weath, musician, because he's the one holding an instrument some of the times. But you later on will hear them talk about these names, but you won't know who's who. But it's kind of a problem when there's this group of warriors that you're supposed to be following and focusing on, and you don't even get their names properly. To the point, if the credits need to correct it to help try to hint who is who, we have a problem. Also, like, the storyline here, for at least on the romantic angle, doesn't really match up with Ahmed. So, Ahmed's then they seem to almost try making him like more of a standard Christian rather than Muslim, but it's this almost weird blend that they do there. But even that aside, they make him seem very pious, but like the movie started because he was fooling around with someone else's wife, and then he's also then gets into a premarital thing with one of the ladies in this village. So he's only religious when it's convenient. Also, that romantic angle just seems to it's there and it's not simultaneously. Like, his reason for leaving was this one girl, but after that opening scene, she's like never brought up again. And then from there, he does seem to have this sort of thing with one of the ladies to the point of sleeping with her, but then I think he just leaves. Bye. Going home. As the effects of the makeup, the costuming are all good. Like, the acting is good. There's a lot of things that work for this movie, but there's just some very perplexing choices that don't. For the most part, it just ends up being standard and sort of forgettable. So, for 13th Warrior for me, I can give it a 5 MacGuffins. It's alright. It's worth seeing at least once. There's some interesting things about it. It's not bad. It's just nothing special. So, it's worth seeing at least once, 13th Warrior. I'm glad I saw it, and now I've seen it a couple times since adding it to my collection. Probably only 2. When I first got it, and then now for the review. So it's not one I turn to very often, but I have it, I guess. It's definitely a movie that exists. Circa 1999, it wanted to be the next Braveheart, but it isn't. And they were trying to capitalize on all the name recognition, but it got none of it. So, it is what it is. Alright, Void. All on that one. Take care.